3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Hello, everybody in Facebook Live Land. We are the Podguyz Podcast, bringing it to you live as we do every Monday. I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, we have the ever-loving Picasso, the Epicurean delight of the big board. Let's mark it. He says hi to Don and Tucker. If you guys need a job, please call us. We pay bad.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Sparky,
yeah.
I have
Don Lemon and
who is he talking about?
Good old Don Lemon and Mr. Tucker.
Oh, great. Such a very narrow reference right there, Sparky.
Fantastic.
For people,
way to go.
For people that need to, we're gonna let people. We're gonna allow people to have some time to look up that specific reference through your cell phone right now. So, no, I'm joking. We're not doing that at all. No. Well, Tony, who do we got there in the fourth square this week?
All right, we do have a special guest today. We do have the impeccably diverse Scott Wilkins joining us today.
Greetings.
Kudos.
That is some intro. Impeccably diverse.
You know what? He is a man of many hats. He is a board operator, a director, writer, actor, voiceover artist. He's an author. I
always feel like Tony has like his kids with cue cards, just picking up random ones in the back, playing Mad Libs with them, and he's reading them off anyway. Whenever describing a guest.
I also feel like I'm being oversold, but that's cool. I mean, you're not wrong either.
Yeah, I mean, have I said anything incorrect so far?
Not to my recollection, although I'm sure there are plenty of people that would say he's a fraud. It's like
fraud.
Well, several weeks back, not several years or months, several weeks back, if you happen to look on Spotify.com to find the Podguyz Podcast, CHEPODGUYZ podcast, of course, you will find us and you will find a gentleman named Ulrich Henry. Now, in that particular interview, Ulrich Henry goes over the diversity of his entire career, and you guys are linked somehow, Scott. How is that probable?
We met in college. I got kicked out of my retail job of almost 13 years, and good riddance on everybody's end. I mean, I
not
had
a sponsor, by the way.
Not a sponsor.
Well, we are sponsored
college
by
and retail store, not a sponsor. I like.
I worked at not a sponsor.
You left out the specifics, which is great, and then we didn't need to.
Wait, but we are sponsored by merchbooth.com. Go and check out their awesome merchandising needs.
You can find us under the podcast section under merchbooth.com for all your Podguyz podcast gear, hoodies, t-shirts, anything you'd like.
Just
Scott,
like
you guys,
Sparky is wearing.
Oh yeah, look at that beautiful shirt right there. So Scott, you said that you met Ulrich in college, you quit your job, and then you guys got shooting movies together, something like that.
Let go. I didn't quit. That would have been nice.
All right.
I would have loved to
I was
have
giving
left
you
on
the
good terms, but nope. I was let go. That's the official thing, but nope.
So they Disney princessed you.
Yeah, I was. You could say I was Power Rangered.
Okay.
And not even that either. But if you remember the original Power Rangers and why the original 3 left, then you'll know. But anyway, so I left. I was ready to grab another shit retail job. No disrespect to retail people who especially love retail. If you love it, props to you. I don't.
We're big fans of all the retail associates.
You are on Prozac or some antidepressant medication or binded to a life that you probably don't like anyways.
It's entirely possible. So I said, and so a family friend said, instead of doing that, why don't you go back to school? Like, well, I'm in my 30s, and it's like, but I guess I don't see why not. Sure, why don't I give it a go? So I cashed in my 401k, lived off of that for the summer. And then when fall came about, signed up with my local community college and got my my associate's degree in communications. And there was when I met Ulrich and other people that we would call our colleagues. It was good. I took to our special classes like audio editing, video editing, and English classes, writing classes. So everybody just gravitated to me. Like the people that didn't know what they were talking about, what they didn't quite understand it, they gravitated to me because it's like, oh, let's group up with the guy that I know is going to give us a great grade. It's like, all right, fine. But so it was good. And then we said, let's meet up. Let's meet up. I was helping Ulrich with his homework, and then we made it a habit of every Sunday our colleagues would meet up and we would start telling stories, usually with the visual medium, sometimes with the audio medium, and would go from there. And we had great times. We wrote some stories together. We came up with some little sketches that you can find on my YouTube channel. Probably some of them are on there, but they're set to unlisted because we had a falling out with another person, but that's another story. Then we started. So anytime I have a live action story that I want to tell, I'm almost always getting Ulrich to lead it because he's such a great actor. He's very determined.
Phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely. So it's a cool idea that he's going to be on TV or in front of a camera, and I could say I was there when he was starting out, or at least in that range. I wasn't there when he did start, but when he went to school for theater and whatnot, I was there and I helped him.
That's fair.
So you got in contact with us because we're such a great podcast, right?
That, and also you called out my shit.
Great. So Tony, what is that message there, Tony? What do you got? What do you got?
The official.
And Tony, we were going out to get some fucking sushi, and then Tony says, "No, I don't want to get any sushi because blah blah blah." And last time I almost got food poisoning and all that nice crap, right? Which he did almost get food poisoning, and I told him,
really did.
Don't get fried sushi ever. Don't get fried sushi ever. It's a bad idea. What does he do? He gets the fried sushi. So he says to me, "Hey, I got another guest that wants to come on." And I said, "Well, who's that?" And he read off you got the message there, Tony, or no?
I do. So when Scott had gotten in touch with me, of course, he gave me a little synopsis of why he got in touch with me. And it said, "Good evening, sir." Good evening. A colleague of mine, Ulrich Henry, tipped me off to the podcast episode of yours that he was featured in. It was a thoroughly entertaining 2-hour listen. I also wanted to declare... Thoroughly entertaining.
We only went for an hour, though, Tony, so he must have listened
I was like
twice.
an hour
It was
and
so
a half,
entertaining.
Hour 45, whatever.
Really? 1 hour 45?
It was right around there, yeah.
Really? All right.
So I want to get back to my character. I also wanted to declare that I am the give a fuck. The give a fuck.
The give a fuck.
That supposedly wasn't there on set for the short film Guardian Devil. We did discuss Guardian Devil in its entirely with Ulrich. He gave us a little 411, not the 411, but
we only got one half of it because you
Correct.
hear one thing from one person. So real quick before we go through the whole message, Scott, what was Guardian Devil about right there? Did you write it? Did Ulrich write it? Who was the writer, producer, editor? Give us the creditations right there.
No, I was the primary writer. I'm the guy that wrote it.
Okay.
Now I have two names there. Darnell Banks. He's listed first because I'm just a stupid, humble guy that just goes with alphabetical. So I just
that's
put myself
fine.
at end. even though I'm the key writer, but he contributed a bit, and it's like, okay, that's cool. So I was the key writer, and I had this the interesting idea of, you always have people trying to get out of a crime they committed. I killed that person, Your Honor, but it wasn't me. It's like, you got the wrong guy. And so what if you had somebody that was absolutely okay with owning up to that terrible crime they committed, but their lawyer still is trying to get them out of it? And why would they? And I thought that was an interesting meditation. And I thought Ulrich would be a great person to lead that. And he met another actor, Crystal Lavero, really great actress. She moved out to California, and she's doing.
So
really
more
good
about the
for
story,
herself.
though, real quick. More about the story, because you said you're a storyteller, and I'm into the story so far. So far in Guardian Devil, and I'm just
in theory, on paper, this all looks good.
No, yeah, I've got a little bit of an idea right now. So if I'm watching it, I'm already seeing that Ulrich is the devil and he's a lawyer, something like that.
Possibly. We don't quite know who or what he is,
Sure.
but he certainly knows more about Mrs. Smith than he should know. It's like, how do you know these things? And so it's just part of my job. You don't have to worry about the details.
So Ulrich could just be any scumbag lawyer, because that's how lawyers kind of come off to you anyways, especially if they're towards the evil route. The audience isn't shown that he is any entity at all. He's just a lawyer up until the point where he is not, spoiler alert. If anybody's going to watch Guardian Devil, you might have a little bit of an idea towards the situation. And the person is guilty. The female lead is the guilty party. Is that true? Is that
Indeed.
So she wants to be a guilty party. She says, let's plead guilty. And there's a back and forth sort of situation. A lot of lines are probably telegraphed out there, so that way the viewers are always in tune with knowing what's going on. Like, have you started off with any of these?
Now, hold on one second, Kevin. I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Sparky, you should be writing the storyboards down in your own depiction, by the way.
Yeah, we really need to remind you of that, Sparky, to actually do stuff.
You
are not just a wallflower today, sir.
So did you have any like cheat dialogue like this? For example, did you have any characters say, well, as you know? Did you have anything like that going on? So
I tried to avoid those. It was just kind of a I'm gonna get you out of this. It's gonna be totally okay. It's like, but I want to face this. It's like, well, that's not an option. It's like, you seem to think that you have a say in this, but you don't. You need to be doing something, and being in prison will be detrimental to that. So you are not going to go to prison. I'm going to pull strings and get you out of this. It's like, and it's like, well, screw that. I'll just get a different lawyer, because clearly you're not representing me and my wishes. And it's like, nope, you're not. That's not an option. It's like, how is that not an option? It's like, there's bigger things going on in the world, and you need to be a part of it. And if you're in jail, you're not a part of it. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Our only hope is that they're not drastic and that nobody sees them. Unfortunately for her, she landed both. But
so did you maybe so there's really no motivation for the lawyer besides just saying, because I said so, to really portray off to the audience, unless you want to throw in some kind of like, I guess you could call it a twist or a cheat code, that the woman he's representing actually is half blood to the devil himself or something like that, right? So that's like the only out that I could see, where, like you could say like, well, the reason I was really doing this is because blankety blankety blank, we'll fill in all of those, and you're really this, and your father was heir to that, or something like that. Any spoiler like that happen or nothing?
There's a point where it's hinted. Well, he says you need to be at this place at this time, and if you're not there, then other things will happen or won't happen. So it involves you. It's kind of hinted at in the epilogue, where she's standing there on the sidewalk and she bumps into somebody. If she wasn't there, that person wouldn't have been bumped into. So it's that whole butterfly effect.
So it's like it's a butterfly. I mean, now when shooting that, did you do the over narration of the scenes that were shown anyways as like a flashback towards that, or was that not an idea?
No voice, no VO,
no voice overlap.
Nope.
I mean, that's kind of like, that kind of feels like a good idea though, right?
I don't disagree, but on the other hand, do I need when do you hit that balance of trusting your audience to kind of put in?
Well, that's actually you not trusting your audience. That's re-explaining what already happened at the beginning of the movie, but you're doing it in flashback over narration. So you're actually you're not trusting the audience to remember even the beginning of the movie. You're repeating it back to them, so that way they can say, "Oh yeah, and that happened." So I wouldn't go that far. The one scene that you saw me kind of on here, you might have heard us on Spotify, where you can listen to us every Tuesday after the Monday Live. The one that you probably heard me go a little nutty about was the camera angle. Now, Tony knows I'm a little bit of a stickler for camera angles and take twos or whatever the hell and all that nice stuff, where the camera angle was far away and way up like this. You get one of, that's why I asked you before time, if was anybody holding the camera and then said to themselves, this is the shot that we need? Because I tell you what, I zoomed in on that, right? I zoomed in on that scene specifically, and Ulrich's expressions on his face were so into the scene, but the scene was kind of lost. Well, let me be honest. It was completely lost because it looked like the camera was given to a person who was 4 foot tall, and that really couldn't hold the damn thing, where he was up like that. Did you see that camera angle or no? You know which camera angle I'm talking about, right?
I have the story's my baby. I edited it all together. I know what I generally know every single scene and every angle. I even know where I had to put way more effort into blotting out light on the board that was behind them. I just had to like Photoshop just like a gray splotch to get the light out. I put way more effort into it than I should have needed to. But yes, I do. Back to your question, I do remember that shot.
Hide in shame, Scott Wilkins. Hide in shame.
Gladly. Anyway,
now, what mood were you trying to portray in that exact scene? If you remember that shot, this is your baby. You remember the exact step-by-step of your baby growing up, basically, right? So in that scene, you're trying to portray what tone, what are you trying to portray in that scene specifically? The dialogue, the back and forth.
Well, there's a bit of nuance going on there, because I'm not the only guilty party here, but in terms of that, I think it was God's. I want to say that it was something to the effect of just how I guess either myself or the DP, if you will, thought that maybe it was just kind of a menacing angle, that he's just that far away, not in her face, like he's just on his way out the door. But he wants to give this little nugget. It's like, when she's asking him, what'll happen when I do this thing that you want me to do? Am I still going to get this Deus Ex Machina level of protection? And he's thinking about it. Let me put it to you this way, Miss Smith. There comes a time in every person's life, in every parent's life, when they can no longer be responsible for their children.
So with that dialogue, right? You said with that dialogue, go ahead with that. You're portraying it pretty nice there. I like it, right? There comes a time in everybody's life with somebody's children, something like that, right? So with that dialogue, you're trying to portray what tone in that scene? So that's what was the original question. What tone are we trying to portray in that scene?
I think I was just aiming for ominousity, if that's a word.
So all of those words put together, in my interpretation, or anybody, if you overhear or you see somebody talking to somebody like that, that is an intense conversation. That is so intense that even if you're just overhearing it from afar, you want to kind of get closer. So the exact opposite camera angle that you're going to want to have is that of a child sitting in a chair far away, not getting the close-up angle of the facial expressions, because we're just the audience on that one. These are some important clues. And then when the camera angle actually does change up, it's from a top where we know Ulrich isn't as tall, because now we know, because the camera angle was far apart. So now it looks like somebody's standing over Ulrich's shoulder, getting a zoom in on towards her forehead, towards her upper part right there, towards the top of her hairline right there. And I think that the scene was, the dialogue was written fair to above average, and that's half the battle right there. So, and acted on Ulrich's part very, with the facial intensity was there perfectly. The portrayal, his character, he got a grip of it. He really cared about it. The female, I mean, listen, I didn't see the whole damn movie. I just saw that scene. Okay. So this specific scene, she didn't knock me out. No big deal. She didn't really have dialogue to knock out. And she wasn't really, most female characters are tough to write for, especially in that specific storyline where now she, for some odd reason, doesn't want the help of a lawyer who is getting her out of a crime scot-free to what is to her decision to be no strings attached. So it just felt like, you're seeing something pretty nice in the air, and then bam, hits a dead spot right there. So during editing, you didn't do the editing, or somebody else did the editing?
I did all the editing.
So during the editing, that had to have stuck out where you said did that scene stick out where you just said, screw it, let's just put it in there and just
we'll just pop it in there.
And because editing takes hours and hours and hours. And after a while, you just say to yourself, oh God, you know what? Let's just get this the hell done with. I'm not getting paid for this. The movie, there is probably a couple things wrong with it, because here you got that far away scene, but you got the mic volume perfectly fine, right? So for some odd reason, the audience is hearing perfect volume from two people. So it sounds like you're right here, but they're so far away. So it didn't really compute that way. So hours and hours worth of editing, was that much more of a skip over? You can be honest. I mean, I'm
not fudging anything. I mean, I'll be as honest as I can, as my memory will recollect. But to be honest, I may be a storyteller, but I'm not a camera guy. I'm not a DP. I didn't. The classes that we took in school were all introductory. And it's like, this is how you want to frame things. Rule of thirds. There you go. Have at it. There really wasn't a whole lot about tone and pit, the blocking and setting and all that. It's just kind of a go crazy. We were trying to do that, and a lot of my classmates later on in the school years, they did a really bang up job with a lot of their projects. And when it came to that, we were trying to come up with some cool dynamic angles, but to be honest, the real problem was we only had one day for all of this, not just a lot of it, pretty much all of it was that one day.
So this was all shot in one day.
One day.
Jesus, wow. How many hours did you have to shoot this whole thing?
About 6 minus 2.
So you had 4 hours then, right?
Give or take. We started it. See, here's where part of the problem is. Now, full disclosure, this is not meant to throw anyone under the bus. This was
listen, Scott, no one's getting thrown under the bus, right? This is assessing responsibility, and you're not going to make you're not going to paint a Mona Lisa in fucking 6 hours.
Yeah, it's not the master's course.
If they're going to take that, listen, you're nice enough to come on this show knowing that you're going into a little bit of a lion's den, but you already know that we're not jerks. We're not assholes about this. But if somebody's going to take, if somebody's going to take a bruised ego over you saying something over the whole thing, then they're not even worth working with the second time rather than a first time. So I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. I understand you're trying to be as respectful as possible, but
and professional.
If they want to come on and explain that situation too, then they can, because half of all of this stuff between creating any form of art is experimentation on top of knowing what didn't work and admitting, of course, what didn't work and what looked bad and what looked good. And, just fessing up to that idea. Dude, I do stand-up comedy for a living. There's not every joke that I've said that was fucking outstanding, hilarious. And the only thing that makes a bad joke good is me pointing it out immediately and saying, well, that kind of sucked. Sorry if not too many people can relate to a Coca-Cola Holocaust joke that well, but holy shit, it's a good joke always in my opinion, but sometimes the crowds that do like it are a little Nazi looking and you're like, oh shit, this is attracting the wrong audience. So listen, man, it's assessing responsibility. So who else was on this situation besides yourself? So you said you got 4 hours basically to shoot it, give or take, right?
Mm-hmm. So the actress Crystal, she's a great producer. She set that up. She set up that room for us to film in. I wouldn't have been able to do that. I didn't know about the room. She just said, I said we needed a single room to work in, and she set it up. Big props to her for that. She's an excellent producer. Another film that we shot called The Darkest Friendship, which is theoretically still in post-production. I don't know. Maybe I'll bring that up. But anyway,
somewhere.
Yeah. But this project, she set up that room. Awesome. But we only had 1 day to shoot it. All right. I guess we can do it. I didn't even see the room ahead of time. So I didn't have any time to set up I didn't storyboard it, which I know I should have. That would have been the smart thing to do. And even afterwards, after all this, years later, I thought about some other shots. It's like, oh, come on. What couldn't we have shot him walking around the table talking? And couldn't we done his
once again, guys, the concept of the movie, Guardian Devil, right? And it's Guardian Devil, right?
Correct.
So we're to assume that the lawyer is always the devil. It kind of says it in the title there,
Yeah,
we're not making too much mystery of the whole thing. The concept of it and the whole storyboard that should have been done. It doesn't really. It's not a bad plot, at all. It kind of has the devil's advocate kind of feel to it, like it could, focus around that. But you're not going to have the building shots within 6 hours, of course, or 5 hours or 4 hours. You're not going to have all of those shots going on, but it's not a bad plot idea all around.
Do you know who storyboards, Kevin?
What's that, sir?
Do you know who storyboards for our show in particular?
Well, we have a professional storyboarder right here, Scott. His name is Le Picasso, the Spark One, the Dunmore Daredevil. He goes by a different name per week. He's kind of like, you take the concept of the artist formerly known as Sparky, and he just keeps moving the bar up every week. So, Sparky, you have something on your big board right there that you'd like to share with our special guest, Scott Wilkins?
Now, Your Honor, we need to dismiss the case because we have to sacrifice from chickens and a virgin at 10 p.m.
And then you see
Madonna is not a virgin. My bad.
Look at that. And you can tell who the judge is because he has the gavel right there. You see how detailed that is? That picture is very deep. For our non-viewing audience out there that is on Spotify, Sparky just drew the picture of a judge sitting up there, very detailed with the graphic. And of course, our favorite pop singer to pick on these days, Madonna, who for some odd reason, people thought that was her at the Grammys. In fact, it was just her vagina the whole time. It was not really Madonna. It just looked like her. That's why the face was all puffy and pink and diseased looking to a degree. It was just her vagina the whole time.
Her vajayjay with lip filler.
Yeah, just like
very much. No, I know she starred in a cartoon. It was Rocky and Bullwinkle at one point in time, didn't she?
No.
She used her vagina like a cape and she'd fly around the room.
Oh no, yeah, that was the squirrel. Yeah.
That
was just the hooded part.
That was just the hooded part, yes.
That's right, Mr. Peabody.
Oh, that is a great impression of Madonna's vagina right there. Sounded identical.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you had 4 hours to work on a full film. And how long was this film? How long was if you're sitting down to watch it?
It's about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay.
Not super long. So we meet up around 10-ish. You know, that's when Sean Connery would go to Wimbledon, right? He would show up at 10-ish.
All right. Oh,
It's
okay.
10-ish.
So we show up, we walk over to the building, and outside that room, I set up snacks, treats, because like I can't afford catering, but I can afford like lots of grapes and fruits and vegetables, just a lot of stuff to, you know, like if you're getting a little peckish, you could just kind of fill up, that sort of thing. And we can just kind of work through from like 10 to 4 or so, give or take. Like, not a bad idea. So we're getting everything set up. Everything's like, I think we can get these angles in. I'm the director and the audio guy. Audio is kind of my bag. And I let the other person, Darnell, let him be generally the camera guy. It's like I kind of give suggestions of where the camera should be, and then he'd go from there. And then
How tall is Darnell?
He's maybe a hair taller than me, maybe around 5'8", give or take, something like that. But I had a tripod, so just kind of lower the tripod, raise the tripod, and truck, dolly, and all that fancy stuff that they theoretically teach you in film school. So we start working. We get things going about an hour in, maybe 2, and then Crystal, Ulrich, his wife, Tasha, they say, we're going to lunch. We'll see you in about a half hour. I'm in my mind, I'm just kind of, what's that food over there? But it's okay. We'll be back in about a half hour. 2 hours later, they come back.
Yeah.
I lose 2 hours of production time. I'm trying not to be salty about it, but
that's a big part of the day. That's 1/3 of the day, right?
Yeah. And I know
how many scenes in a 20-minute film were they possibly in that 2 hours that they missed? How many scenes were they?
That Ulrich and Crystal, they were the whole thing.
That was the whole thing?
Yeah. There was a third actor. There were 4 actors. Tasha shows up in the epilogue, and then there's one guy, JJ. He shows up at like the very end. He's like the security guard letting Crystal's character out. So while my 2 principal actors are off on lunch, Darnell takes JJ out as well to Walmart to go get some clothes to make him theoretically look more security guard-esque. Okay. So they come back earlier, of course, because it's not that hard.
So in that 2 hours, were you just eating grapes, or were you setting up scenes, or were you just like, after 1 hour, you were like, where the fuck are these people? Because there's a lot of things that goes on in your head, in my head, especially if you're doing stuff and somebody's like, hey, let's go out to lunch. And I'm just like, okay, cool. That should only take less than an hour. And if it takes longer,
so this is this paid or non-paid?
Not paid.
Not paid. Okay.
So that's why I felt like I couldn't really be that much of an a-hole director about it. Because
you kind of bought lunch anyway, so that way everybody stays in.
You buy snacks.
Buy snacks. Listen, man, I've been on sets before where a fucking 3 meals a day are donuts and Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Yeah. And it was all donated stuff. I mean, if you're nice enough to put out a spread, then, the other part of respect would be to stay in the room, right? Or at least say, hey, if we're all hungry or whatever, let's order out and have the food delivered, sort of thing. Just as long as everybody is staying together. Once people start leaving the set or whatever, and, how long were they on set is a good question right here. Like, how long were they on set before the rumbling of the tummy started happening?
Everybody was there. We all met in the parking lot, and we all walked over to the building. And
but how long though? How
long were you
about
physically?
About 2 hours, give or take.
So they were already there for 2 hours, then decided to get some lunch and went out for 2 hours, right?
And we maybe shot for about an hour, half hour, because setup was a bitch. It almost always is.
Always, yeah.
Especially when nobody really knows what they're doing. It's like, hey, I've got these really heavy hot lights. Let's try to set them up. It's like, hey, we got lighting to work on. Let's try to get lighting. How do we set up the microphone? Who's got that? I'll use the boom pole and just stick it up just a little bit out of not just outside of eye shot, with just outside of frame, and it all takes a lot of time.
Well, you see, even with that's another thing with boom mics, right? So you don't really need to have them up top all the time, right? You can have them down low as well, right? Especially with this two-actor room.
Down
that's why
the table.
That's why a tighter shot between like a 2-camera angle, or even like get a 3-camera angle going on there, real tight shot in there. You can put the mic right up underneath it and hide every wire in the world because the shot is so tight. And then after that, cut, edit. Who cares if they're get a walking away scene of them after the fact. So that way, whatever happens, or go through a flashback scene, get to another scene, because there was the one movie Ulrich wanted me to watch. And I watched it. It was Dark Web, right? Are you familiar with Dark Web?
Yep.
Man, a lot of missed opportunities right there. So there were scenes that were just hanging on these were, in my opinion, okay, and I'm no fucking Steven Spielberg here, but in my opinion, it should have been, you're looking maxing out from 8 to 12 seconds, right? On these one shots, 8 seconds, then bam, let's get another angle, then bam, let's cut to a different angle, then bam, and on to another scene. That's as much attention span as anyone has in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, and it's even fucking worse right now, right? So these scenes are hanging on for, I'm talking, dude, I had my stopwatch out right there on the cell phone. You're talking 1 minute and 48 seconds of just of a guy fucking with a gun, right? And he's next to a thing and he's just hanging out like this, back and forth. Same angle on the camera, by the way. Same angle. If the camera has the same angle, it basically shows complacency with the whole entire movie, to the point where everyone feels just as bored as that guy looks on his face. No, I think he was the lead.
A multi-angle approach would have approached time differently.
Exactly, and it would have showed time elapsing and all that nice stuff. But yeah, so I would just say, for future projects, because you don't want that to be your only thing. Scott, you seem to the story. Like, by the way, can't stress this enough. The story for the movie Guardian Devil, even the title alone, sounds pretty good. Hopefully, maybe you guys can get together and reshoot this story and reshoot the whole entire thing, replace the female character, keep Ulrich, because this guy's got some depth to himself, man. I mean, if you hit him with like 8 different takes on different emotions, or just have him go through how many takes did you actually have to do with him? I mean, lucky enough, maybe 1 or 2.
We were able to get a few takes for each shot, for each sequence. The good news is Ulrich and Crystal did their line rehearsed ahead of time without my presence, and that's fine. It's you
think maybe that's what they were doing at lunch, kind of getting a chemistry together.
I think they were just shooting the proverbial shit. Just,
you think they were? Just hear that, Ulrich? He thought you were getting high.
All the drugs.
They were at IHOP.
They were at IHOP. Yeah, that's where I buy my crack too, because when you can't go to Denny's.
So, but I wrestle with that now. It's like, how much, even though everybody is there and they're being charitable, they want to do this project. I'm not paying anybody. Everybody is just, they have a passion for this project. But my question is, even with that, should I have been a more of an asshole director and said, no, you guys stay here. We need to get this shot. We only have this one day. Should I wrestle with that? Should I have been more assertive? It's filed under, I guess I'll never know kind of deal.
I mean, if you pass on that opportunity, and then you can't be too passive with any project that you're on at all. Like it, and yeah, so it's a tough mood. I mean, it's a tough thing because these are also your friends too.
Yeah, and I don't want to be because we do fine generally when we're working on other projects, just because everybody's having fun and we're just working for a few hours on these cute little projects. A couple of times I've had to be really I guess use that word again, salty with people. I was doing a little horror film. That's if I remember correctly, that's the name of the movie, a little horror film about my then, I think she was 6 or 7 years old at the time, where she takes a machete and she kills Ulrich, just chops into his throat. That was a fun project. It was also an exercise in low lighting filming. So unfortunately,
and that was a low budget thriller.
Yeah, it's just a muddy mess because I was trying to work in low level lighting and I'm trying to raise up the lighting artificially.
If you don't have, if you have a script that even somewhat meets up to par and people want to see the gore and stuff like that, and the special effects aren't there. I mean, there is weird enough, my one buddy does special effects. His name is John Smith. I'm not even joking. It's like the weirdest. It's like the most common name for the most uncommon looking kind of guy. But he does very cool special effects.
Stop it. He looks very average.
No, man, he's a weird looking bugger. So we were doing a pre-production of a Town of Evil before COVID and all that nice crap. And then, well, we couldn't do that even after COVID because, you know, you lose all the actors, you lose everybody. And, but he was doing the special effects for the dead bodies and crap. And it was very interesting to see how close he got, but you have to really have bad lighting and a lot of blood to say that looks like so and so as a dead body, you know, like, yeah. So as much effort, as much makeup room that he had going on with himself, it didn't meet any standard that it would pass for me. But you don't want to be in the position where you say, oh, that sucks, man, that doesn't even look like him, because you want to be complimented. Everybody's there for free. Everybody's donating their time. So you say, well, that looks really great. And, you know, you can't really give what you honestly want to say at the moment all the time, because, you know, you're not owning the whole thing. But Sparky's got something right there. Holy shit. Speaking of person he's knocking down the door, when that board gets close to the camera. Sparky, what's going on? Turn the board around there, my man.
Holy shit. Blessed feces.
I actually found out on what happened to their first day of shooting.
Uh-oh.
I had my inside man send me a picture.
This
Let's see a bunch of crates, big lights, and broken ceiling fan, a bicycle, and Lady X in deer head, and a dead rat. This is perfect. Lunch break.
And I guess Sparky is
yeah, that sounds about right.
Is that what the scene now, as much as we've been talking about the movie, is that kind of what the scene looked like to exact degree? I mean, for our non-viewing audience, they might not know what's going on, but is that someone close there, Scott, or no?
There might have been a bicycle parked outside. It wasn't ours, but it was a bicycle. But if someone wants to claim ownership to that bicycle, they're welcome to it.
Sparky, it looks like there's a deer head above the door right there. Am I right on the animal or no?
Well, right next to the dead rat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yep. There's a dead rat right there too.
And we did try to have Crystal with like bloody knuckles, but no, we didn't have any fake blood. There was red nail polish, which showed up for shit, but hey, it was A for effort all the same.
You know what I think would have been a great interpretation of this whole entire movie, and I'm going to give it to you right now, because this is probably the best idea for the movie right now. You're going to love it too. You're going to shit yourself. So put your diapers on right now, man. Listen, this is what you do. So through the audience looking at the idea, it is the guardian devil, right? So throughout everything, the main protagonist is Crystal, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that one wasn't for Guardian Devil though, Kevin.
No, who was in
But that was the horror movie, right?
I think we're still on Guardian Devil.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so Crystal was in the
Although Sparky did get that shot of the little horror film. And yes, there was a machete, and my daughter's deciding on which corpse to eat on in her meat room. And she gets out the machete. There's Ulrich on the ground. Please don't kill me. And she looks down. Oops, I forgot you. Brings down the machete. Chop. I'll get back to you later. So she chops into someone else's leg and she's noshing on it. That's good. Throws the leg in the corner. Splat. And then we see a whole bunch of pictures on the table with circles and X's. And then we turn to one that has a circle. She puts the bloody machete on it. You're next. I want to eat you. And then we get the cheery music going on, and then the credits roll.
I like the voice acting, man. The voice acting is spot on right there. So really, just real quick, you're gonna love this too. I'm gonna promise you're gonna love this stuff right now, right? So with the movie Guardian Devil, you know how you were saying that he's the lawyer, and the people don't know that it could be the devil or whatever the hell, right? So how about this? How about later on, the audience finds out that Crystal is really like schizophrenia, has like some kind of mental condition to the point where she is so paranoid that she thinks that he is the devil. And the only reason that she's getting out of this whole entire mess that she got herself into is because she's going back to the mental institution.
Well,
and the majority of the movie is just a delusion.
That's already the movie, Kevin.
That's already the movie.
You're not super far from the truth. So Ulrich has written an anthology concept that he wants to do a series of horror movies, and we decided Guardian Devil would be the first one. And each of those anthology installations would focus on the Smith family, and Ulrich's character, the Guardian, is interacting with those family members to kind of manipulate things in the grand scheme. What we were tinkering with in between things was that I would play somebody talking to his character in a mental institution, and we're talking about how like God is not interacting anymore, so hell is having its opportunity to manipulate things. I'm playing more on the hell side. He's more of a renegade devil, a renegade demon, and he's influencing things in particular directions. We haven't really been able to life, and especially COVID made it very difficult for us to get back together and write things out. It's like, this is how let's map things out.
What do you think about that one, Tony?
I think it sounds all right so far.
Look at Tony is thrilled. That's his erection face right there.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just doing bare bones, but
I'm not a concept guy. I like to be more visual on.
Sure. But with Guardian Devil, and also just the difficulty of getting people together. See, my group, we would just show up, and sometimes group members would just do their own thing. So it's like, okay, we're going to shoot this scene for the Darkest Friendship. I need you to run camera. I'll run audio as I usually do. And I'm the director, which is kind of like, but then he's like, no, I'm going to go.
You're in the same room though. You're like, you're in the same room. It's not, it's not like you're like, but how will I wear this hat while holding this? Oh, well, I'm going to just throw it on the ground.
Well, I still kind of have to lean around and see if the person is running the camera actually knows what they're doing, because they usually don't. Yeah, it's just it kind of sucks when you're working with people that not only don't have the vision in your mind, which fair enough, but when they just simply don't know what they're doing.
Who's that?
It's just one day when we were shooting, I wound up having to do camera and audio, and I'm trying to get everything lined up right.
Which camera?
The one camera.
Oh,
the one.
Yeah, one camera gets kind of tricky.
Yeah, and a boom pole. So you got to make sure everything is running in cojones with each other, in cahoots.
Yeah, one camera gets kind of tricky, especially with a two-person dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have, especially like, you can run, what you could do You could run the audio and then try to redub it over, but that never looks authentic at all.
So some of my older projects from school, I didn't have faith in the camera audio capturing the dialogue very well because again, I'm a very audio centric guy, so I want everything to sound great. So I would dub things over later, and generally they did fine. I could just feign ignorance, and it's like, oh, I was just inspired by animes where kung fu movies where they're dubbed and everybody's the lip flaps don't match the audio. I could play that angle, but that's okay. But eventually I did upgrade and got myself an external microphone and a boom.
Even if you would have lines delivered on a one camera on a POV level, point of view level, from the person's perspective of the protagonist and Ulrich talking, and then vice versa, back and forth as an idea. And then get the wide shot of them both staring at each other, and then continue the dialogue that way. It would kind of add to the illusion of having more than one camera there. Also, what year was this shot?
Blessed feces. I want to say, let's see. I graduated in 16. I want to say it was around 2018.
Okay,
maybe.
So then there is absolutely no excuse. Everybody had a goddamn camera phone on them, okay? So
Yeah.
You get a tripod with a camera phone, all right, and use that camera. Everybody has multiple cameras on them at that time. Get 4 tripods if you need them. 5 different cameras. For every person there, if they had an iPhone 6 Plus or a 7 Plus or an 8 Plus, there is so many cameras you guys have. So if you think you only had one camera, think harder. Everybody has a cell phone on them. Use the cell phones. The lens on these cell phones, the new ones, are probably good, if not better, than the ones that you already have anyways. And inside of editing software, I know that, at the time you were a novice, but just for future projects even, like people shoot movies on cell phone cameras. The only thing that seems to interrupt sometimes is, you just got to upload everything because these camera phones don't have as much memory as an actual camera would have on them. So for editing purposes, just throw it all the fuck in there. And Tony's over there almost passing out, taking epileptic seizures right now. Rolling epileptic seizures. I love it, Tony. I love it.
Remember, don't choke on your tongue.
Don't choke. Yeah.
So feeling like I couldn't really do as much myself working in behind a camera, thought, I really love audio, and I really like the discovery of audio stories, audio dramas. So I thought, why don't we someday take this Mark of Darkness anthology and just remove, because I kind of thought, wait a minute, what if I remove the visuals from Guardian Devil? Would you lose a whole lot? Not really, as it's very dialogue heavy. So so it crossed my mind to, if anything, rewrite it, at most rewrite it to be more suited to an audio story. And then the future stories that we have, Mary on the Contrary is the next one that someday we may get to, that might be turned into an audio drama as well. And that way it just removes the visual component and still be able to tell a compelling story. They did it during the radio time, and they're still a very big thing. It's niche, but it's still a big market.
It is. I like a Sin City type dialogue as well, like something very retro noir, yet with still a compelling storyline, great actor development, great story development, which is pieced together really well. So even Mr. Miller's, portrayal on Sin City, phenomenally written.
You could still listen to the Twilight Zone on radio version of the Twilight Zone on YouTube, right? And it is still very much great storytelling. You could, if the story's good and the dialogue between both voice actors are good, you don't really need much more than people with their imagination. And with the the story kind of becomes a little bit more chilling because all you're doing is listening to it by yourself, and some people's own minds can be even more creepy,
Imaginative.
Imaginative than the actual portrayal of video. But with this script, it's listen, it's a nice idea, guys. You had some good actors in the whole thing. I mean, just the camera angles, man, that drove. I'd actually called up Tony. I don't know if you saw the episode, so I called up Tony, and this is before the show. I'm like, Tony, and I didn't know Ehrlich was in the room, to be honest with you. And I felt like the scene was perfectly acted, and that's tough to watch anymore. When you see something that's acted so on target with a very profound character, he's playing the devil compared with the legal aid to a woman. So he's playing the devil, and he's portraying it in, he's not overdoing it, and because it's very easy to overdo the devil character. So in my opinion, he wasn't overdoing it, and he wasn't underdoing it to the point where, his screen presence was there, but it was so far away that I had to fucking literally zoom in and get to it and get to the idea and see if this guy, because you want to know a little bit about your guest. So we always ask them a little bit, or we do some research before time or whatever. And that was the one thing before the show. I'm like, well, let's see what this guy is all about. And it's just one of those things. You could probably turn that into a play, and it would sell off just the same, with the same intensity. Tony's looked like he wants to say something right there.
No, I'm just trying not to say following along, but we're gonna wrap this up anyways.
Yeah.
So
already we just got here.
I know. We're already an hour in. Who would have thought?
But you see what I did there? If it had just been an audio drama, that wouldn't have distracted you, and you would have just had the dialogue.
That's true.
Because all you're talking about is that one fracking scene. It's like, would you just leave it alone? But no, I get it. I get it.
I know. I find that as one of those missed opportunities.
I don't disagree. You're not wrong. But it goes back to my original thesis. I'm not a camera guy. I'm not a visual guy. I'm an audio guy.
The audio was good. The audio was spot on. It was it was impressive how much I could hear everything. There was no noise interference at all. It was good. It was good stuff as far as the audio goes. The video, I'm thinking to myself, man,
Well, if I ever get back to a video thing again, I'm definitely going to be talking to people that know what they're doing with the camera. So then I said, well, why not? So there's particular stories that I've written years ago. I have a story that was inspired by the PlayStation 1 game Parasite Eve, if anyone remembers that one. And it's like, I want to tell that story, but I'm not there yet. So I'm going to have a practice audio story. So I came up with, while I was doing my day job, because we air the Buffalo Bills games locally on our radio station. And I'm
what's that radio station's name again? 102.1 The Bear?
Well, the group is Equinox Broadcasting. It's locally owned.
Equinox, okay.
And 107.1 The Bear is one of them. But it was airing on 100.5 The Drive, which is a alternative.
I love the names of these. It's almost like the same guy
The Bear.
1-800 The Drive. The drive home.
92.9.
Yeah. Weather on the 2s and the 5s. Traffic's on the 7s and the 9s.
On the cam.
Why? Who came up with this format?
Classic hits. Cool 106.7. That's another one of our stations.
Cool 106.7.
On the jam cams, 106.7.
We also have Solid
the consensual
Gold,
sex station for your dating dreams. It airs on the Drive when we do the Bills game, and we are doing the Bills again. We'll be covering them, so I'll be here on those days and nights just by myself. And I took that time and I wrote out a script, and it wound up being something called Bug Out, because I was
actually just going to get into that.
Well, did you have some? Did you want to say anything about that before I go any further?
I did. So you call it an audio comedy, starring William Nunn and Caroline Sweet.
Yep.
Now, in that particular one, it is a comedy about praying mantis.
Yes, it focuses on a support group for male praying mantises before they meet their demise, mating with a female.
Yeah.
A hero rises above them and tells them
that's the story of every man's life right there.
Right. But a hero rises above them and says that there's an alternative, a way to escape this fate. And he becomes a champion. All is great until his exes show up for his blood. Hilarity ensues.
Hilarity.
At least I like to think so. I thought it went well.
And of course, you can check that out on YouTube.
Yep. I thought it was good. It was definitely quite the undertaking for me. I hadn't done that before. I had to gather 10 other people all around the world. It was basically the Twitterverse. Just like you do a casting call on Twitter and all of these actors just come out of the woodwork. It's like when I first started Twitter, it was for my comic strip that I did to promote the comic. And then I dropped it. And then thus I dropped Twitter. But then it's like, I could probably use Twitter for my voice acting career. So then I just did a hypothetical casting call. It's like, if I did a casting call, who would be interested? I went from like 3 followers to 300 in a week.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't even on purpose.
How many of those people were porn stars and how many others were people who were experts in Bitcoin mining?
I'm going to say the ratio of legit people was probably 85-15, maybe. But these days I've got like almost 1,700 followers now. And yes, when I hit the 1,500 mark, I thanked the thirst traps and spoof accounts because I couldn't have done it without them.
You hear that, thirst traps and spoof accounts? This is looking at you there.
Well,
Russia bots.
That's all of our followers here at the Podguyz.
Well, I did lose two. I did lose 2 followers
and
after that
OnlyFans
tweet.
accounts, by the way.
So I went back to 1498. It's like, oh, I guess somebody took offense to that, but whatevs. I was back up before I knew it. So I'd been hanging out with other voice actors, and it's like this seems really cool. I was working with just interacting with other people. William Nunn, he's like my best friend when it comes to the voice acting world, and it's like this seems like a good project for him. Now I admit I casted him out of a sense of nepotism. As not
related to you?
Oh, not at all. But he's my really good friend, and it's like I think you would.
No, what you're describing there is favoritism.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's all it is. And nepotism, you ain't related.
Well, we're kind of online bosom buddies. I've never met the dude, but we talk Dune. If you ever need any information about Dune, he's the guy to talk to. He's a rabid fan of that franchise.
Is he suffering from depression?
Not to my knowledge. If he is, he's very good about not hiding it.
Oh, he's not hiding it.
Yeah, he's good about if he is suffering from depression, he's good at hiding it. That's what I was trying to say, but then I tripped on my words.
We did the take 2 right there. It's all good. He's so normally I have this theory that people that are really into Dune are severely depressed.
Oh, okay, that's entirely possible.
There's Sparky, yeah. Sparky, do you like Dune?
I like it about maybe 5 notches less. I don't know what the criteria is, what a notch is, how much each notch represents, but I'm a little less of a rabid fan, but I do love it. And then when he started getting into it, I was one of the cheerleaders. It's like, you got to check this out. But to follow your theory, yes, depression is definitely a problem for me these days, but we're not talking about mental health. We're talking about Dune, which apparently is tied to.
We are. It's tied right to it. Yeah.
The
I like the fact that everybody's using their
circle
own
of
moments of measurement.
sadness.
I like the fact that everybody uses their own mode of measurement this year.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's one alligator length. It's one car length. It's one schmeckel.
Shekel.
Geez, Louise of Jesus, my
You
current.
got a shekel of salt?
There
A
must
shekel
be
of
one
salt.
shekel.
I'm gonna shekel you like nobody's business. But I'm working on my latest audio drama that I'm working on is a pirate adventure, and that takes place in Southeast Asia. So I'm working with a lot of Southeast Asian actors, and I don't know. It's like I'm guessing on units of measurement, like it's one click away, it's 50 tacks down and whatnot. I was like, I don't know.
When you say Southeast actors, like Florida?
No, like Southeast Asia,
Oh,
Singapore,
okay. Right.
and
I didn't want
Malaysia, that sort of thing. Well, one of the actors that was on Bug Out, Suling Chan, I had seen some of her tweets, and then I reached out to her after Bug Out, and I said, what kind of story do you want to do? It's like, well, I've been watching a lot of Our Flag Means Death. I'd love to play a pirate with a Singaporean accent. I'm like, I think we could work with that. So just that one prompt, I came up with a post-apocalyptic steampunk pirate adventure taking place in Southeast Asia, modern retelling the story of the famous or infamous pirate queen of Singapore. And
Boom, drop the mic.
Okay, so
right.
that's a lot of moving parts right there.
Isn't it?
So Scott, how did you pitch that to Disney? Did you throw a kid in there and be like, but don't worry, there's a man who's in love with a child? They're like, oh my God, Pocahontas 3? Yeah,
we're
why
sold.
not? It's Pocahontas 3.
Well, don't worry. The ocean is poison, so if you take a dip in it, it's basically drain cleaner, and you'll just dissolve. There's giant sea serpents that fly through the air and swim through the ocean and will just rip your ship to shreds.
Now, were you? There's only two ways of writing this script. You were on a psychedelic medication or something to that degree, or you were just playing Mad Libs one day and you're just like, well, this is a script now, guys. It's very random. You got a lot of random parts rolling in there, which sometimes random feels very creative. Other times random feels confusing. So what motivated you to write that one down?
Just a gradual thing. Talking with the actress, we were talking about this historical figure, and because I didn't want to do just a retelling or a reimagining of this character in her original story, because people do that already, and it's just that's a commitment to studying history that I'm just not interested in.
So just make it up then, right?
Yeah, but then you're going to be targeted for, it's like, well, that's not historically accurate. It's like, well, screw you. But I thought, well, if I just pull there's a writer out there, Sharon J. Zhao, if I'm saying her name right. She wrote a book, Iron Widow, where she does a reimagining of the only Chinese empress in history, and she brings it up to like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Yu-Gi-Oh and modern stuff and high-tech stuff like that. I thought, well, why don't I do the same with this character? Bring it up, and wouldn't it be kind of fun to make the ships kind of steampunk-ish? And these giant sea serpents came in from another dimension and just laid waste to everything, and they bring in their own physics, their own aquatic life, so the water on their world is fine for them, but for us everything it's just acidic. So it's
what you're doing there is it's part world building, and then you're just borrowing from some historical facts from that idea and then trying to gain a plot somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, world building is fun. It's really I've built another world where a knight shows up in a desolate world where it's run by a matriarchy, and it's just winter all the time. It's just a frozen wasteland.
Scott, you seem to me like you're very much into a D&D, or you're a not necessarily a gamer type, but you did do quite a few board games in your day.
I didn't do board games. I did computer games, and those computer games inspired me like nobody's business. Just all that world building, and it's just like, yeah, I could do that. So all I need is a writing prompt, and I can come up with another story. Easy.
Okay. I like the headphones. What kind of headphones you got there? I want to try to write that down.
Sennheiser's HD 202s. They're discontinued, but yeah, they're really good. The only problem is with them is the cable. While it's long, you can trip on it, and it's also really cheap. So
it's really thin. That's a thin cable.
Yeah. And these are the headphones that we had.
It is known. It is almost known that is almost what David Carradine used in the closet at one point in time.
Yes, the famous last episode of Kung Fu, where David Carradine told a young child, he says, "Listen, if there's one piece of advice I can give you on how to masturbate correctly, you're going to want to go into a closet, wrap a belt around your neck, and hang yourself into almost completion." But
this thin cord.
If only he had used this, he might still be alive.
He might have still been alive.
Yeah, because it's got that safety latch just in case, now they have safety latches. If not for,
True.
Oh, God.
Well, Scott, we're going to leave out the red carpet for you, sir. Is there anything that you're doing currently at the moment where people can get in touch with you if you're looking for some actors from the Binghamton / New York area?
Oh, that is so funny, because I was just on Facebook in a local filmmaking group that was set up by another filmmaker, and I inherited it. I did a casting call. I'm looking for a few more C actors, and then of course some white actors showed up. I'll do that. It's like what does C mean? What does SEA mean? Southeast Asian. It's like, oh, I don't apply. It's like, for what it's worth, to be fair, it took me months of pretending to know what that meant before I finally figured out what it meant. It's like, oh, gotcha.
I thought you meant C as in Caucasian actors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That's a thing. But nope, it was I have my professional account on Facebook, but it's my voice acting one. I honestly don't do too much with it, but you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Citrus Guy VA. You can find me on Discord, Citrus VA number 9033. I don't know why I know that off the top of my head, but on Instagram, I believe I'm who am I? Who
are you?
You're something.
I'm also Citrus Guy VA on Instagram. I usually post practice stuff like tongue twisters. New York. You need New York. You need unique New York. That sort of thing. Those are fun to practice. Just cheap excuses to be on. I'm also on TikTok. I think I'm also Citrus Guy VA.
Scott, if you ever need any voiceover actors, of course, me and Kevin would be happy to do some stuff for you.
We're always available.
Always doing something.
Well, one of the stories that I'm working on, that Parasite Eve inspired one, I do need a guy that summons a demon, and I need his forensics buddy that covers up the mess.
Now, do you need someone to draw that scene? Sparky, I'm asking for you.
It's true.
Well, the whole idea of that story.
You need a storyboard artist, is what he's trying to say.
Well,
even if it's just stick figures, like it's well, Scott, it's tough to keep up with. I like the energy, right? But it's tough to keep up where you got these cool ideas, but if somebody could draw them for you, like Sparky on your side right there, and then to just that way you get a visual of the idea. Like you said yourself, you're more audio in tuned. You have great voice for voiceover work, and you have a creative spirit and mind for world building all around. So you might want to, not exactly Sparky, that's more of a joke, but just to hook up with somebody that might want to draw what you're seeing in your own head creatively. That way you can even go further with the idea. It's just an idea. Just, because,
Sure.
there's always an outside perspective that can kind of like pop in one component there. And,
So yeah, I've been drawing ever since I started telling stories. So theoretically, I can draw things myself, but like you said, I do appreciate and respect the idea of having an outside person saying, "Hey, let's do this." I've tried to collaborate.
You know what we
with
appreciate,
people.
Scott?
What do you appreciate, sir?
We appreciate that Sparky just picked up the pens this past year, and finally he's using them. So,
well, how about
there's that.
Blessed be those markers in his potentially not cursed hands.
Yeah,
That's
he
true.
used to
That's
just
true.
draw with the pieces of paper right now, but instead Sparky mainly spends most of his internet time on merchbooth.com finding all the Podguyz podcast gear, such as shirts, hoodies, socks, tank tops, headbands. Most of those are actually real products. The other ones, well, you'll just have to go to merchbooth.com and find out exactly which ones I said were real and which ones are not real. And
I like the
yourself up a
official
shirt.
merch booth Podguyz podcast baby doll underwear.
Ooh,
We
yeah.
cannot guarantee that these t-shirts will not make you sexually attractive to alpacas. I repeat,
Oh, that's
we
true.
cannot
That is
promise
true.
they will not make you sexually attractive to alpacas.
Now, that was only one zoo. Okay, that was only one zoo incident, and
That's
the person
true.
was hiding bacon inside of their lingerie.
What-
So
Why is it always one?
Because that's the only one that you were willing to admit to.
That's true. That's true.
The other three now.
I always say that if the San Francisco people were so homeless, they would just live in the zoo.
Guys, if you wanted to find out where we are at, Sparky, where can you find us, sir?
But you can actually find us on every single major streaming platform, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, Castbox, Pocket Cast, YouTube. You can find us on Facebook Live Video. You could also find us on GeoRio, even though that's not the
GeoRio.
name, even though it's not the real name. And then once again, you can find us and our wonderful merchandise on merchbooth.com.
Merchbooth.com.
Merchbooth.com. Merchbooth.com. Merch booth.
We are also
Uh-oh.
Sparky on wait, hold on. Because I had to write that. Oh, not that I wrote this down, but we're also on Amazon Music, Sonos, Sonos,
Sonos is
Chrome,
the-
Google Podcasts, and podcastaddict.com.
Don't forget, we are also uploading more stuff on YouTube. We have very little presence on YouTube, but very maximum presence on Spotify, which is weird because it's normally the other way around. I guess Scott Wilkins might be onto something that we are easier to listen to than to watch.
I don't know. I kind of liked your mug shots. It's fun.
we ain't got bad faces. It's not like the kind
Yeah,
of
we're not
face
bad. We're not bad looking.
I'm actually a bit of a microphone. I have a little bit of a possibly unhealthy obsession with microphones. So I see your microphones on screen. It's like, oh, it's such a pretty microphone.
You like this one? This is all right. Tony's got several ones right there. He got that one because it's shaped in his favorite way possible, as a big black microphone. It's close to his mouth. And yeah, it's not bad. It's a little bit of a ghetto setup.
Microphones are to be used orally.
That's true. Guys, we are the Podguyz Podcast. Make sure you tune in every week, every Monday. Guys, we got some great interviews set up for the next couple weeks. Make sure you tune in 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're the Podguyz Podcast. I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary.
Of course, the ever-loving Picasso.
Let's Sparky.
Insert guest.
Insert guest, Mr.
Yeah,
Scott
yeah.
Wilkins. Thank you very much for taking your time, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure being here. Such an honor. If you ever need a fill-in, I'd be happy to come in again.
Perfect.
That
Perfect,
sounds like a date I once had. He was a man.
That's what she said. No,
Guys,
really,
have a
she
great
did say
night.
that.
We'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
Bye.